Max Eberl. Eberl has been causing a bunch of problems.
It's the fact that we focused this transfer window with 2 of those players. So this could also be Erbel's fault too, without a doubt.
But at the end of the day, they did ship off a lot of players that I think me and Pat would agree needed to get shipped off and needed to get sold. The topic of discussion is Bayern summer. It has been extremely controversial, and maybe there's a few figures at play, but the main culprit right now that all Bayern fans want the head of, want put under the guillotine, is Max Eberl. Eberl has been causing a bunch of problems for Bayern Munich, according to fans at least, and do Bayern Buddies agree? Let's dive into it. Today we're going to answer the question, should Max Eberl be sacked? When we become president of Bayern, would we sack Eberl right now? Lock that in.
So obviously this summer has been a 5 out of 10. We already have a video discussing about this, so check that link in the comments down below for that video where we go into a little bit more detail about the transfers, our rating whatsoever. So just to summarize that video, we said it was a complete flop. Lock that in for sure. We signed obviously Luis Diaz, we signed Tom Bischoff, we signed Nicholas Jackson, we signed Jonathan Tah. You know, some decent players for sure, and we obviously promoted Leonard Carl up, so we're gonna kind of count that as a transfer, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it has been pretty underwhelming because we at least needed 2 more players in our squad, given the take that we've had Musiala injured, Davies injured, Ito injured too, and we're bound to get injuries because Bayern Munich, we are FC injury, let me tell you. Especially when it comes to that April term, we're always going to be injured. We're going to have an injured squad. It's always going to be like that, lock that in. So obviously we needed players in the squad. We needed at least, I would say 1 to 2 players, I would say. Whatnot, with some decent quality to add into the squad depth for sure, and we didn't get it. Unfortunately, we got Nicholas Jackson, which is okay, a pretty good signing, but I do think that they needed 1 or 2 more for sure. But the question needs to be answered on why that may be. After the signing of Luis Diaz, we essentially wanted to do loan deals. And this could have had a huge effect on negotiating with players because I don't think agreeing to contract, agreeing to the money, agreeing personal terms with the actual player was a problem. I think it was absolutely with the club because as we saw on the final day, Lookman was this close to join Bayern Munich, but Antalata wanted a transfer fee instead of a loan deal, and that's why it collapsed, let me tell you. So there's probably other instances with Xavi Simons, for example. Obviously, Max Eberl knows Xavi Simons working at RB Leipzig, so personal agreement, I believe it was there. It was for sure there. The media hasn't reported it, but I do believe it was there for sure, without a doubt.
Bayern Buddy sources.
Bayern Buddy sources, exactly. But we wanted to get a loan deal for Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig, and obviously Leipzig are not going to loan out to the better German club for Xavi Simons, one of their best players for sure. They probably want a transfer fee, pretty much what they got from Tottenham, and they got it, and they're loving the fee right now. So if Max Eberl was able to do transfers, would we have had a better transfer window? Lock that in.
Loan deal, loan deal, loan deal. That's what was going on for the second half of the summer, as Pat just mentioned, and it was criminal stuff. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't Eberl at fault for the loan deal situation. It was actually the legendary Bayern player Uli Hoeneß, as we all know by now, or should know if you're a follower of this channel, that Uli Hoeneß was the reason, because even Eberl and company, both I believe were huge fans of Xavi Simons, wanted him at the club for sure, 100%. They even went to Uli Hoeneß's house to try and convince him. I don't know if it was specifically about Xavi Simons, but they tried to convince him. I believe it was Xavi Simons that they wanted to get really bad, but Uli Hoeneß wouldn't budge. I guess the financials weren't there and whatnot. Uli Hoeneß wanted to be green in the transfer window, of course. I don't know if it's the future is now old man type of thing going on with Uli Hoeneß, but maybe it's time to just move on because, you know, clubs are spending money. I know we have the whole 50+1 rule in Germany, so it's a bit shaky with how we're going to handle that situation. As the biggest club in Germany, of course, we kind of set the trends and whatnot, but, you know, financially, we can't compete with some of these Premier League clubs. We even see a lot of Bundesliga, you know, owners and who not. I've seen some complaints about even fans saying, how are Germany supposed to compete with teams in the Premier League getting so much money to spend? I mean, it is a very valid concern, and we've just seen it. This is just another example of a summer where maybe that rule or just stuff behind the scenes just has ruined the chance of Bayern Munich becoming the real top dog of, you know, the Champions League in Europe and whatnot. But yeah, back to the Uli Hoeneß versus Eberl thing. I mean, of course, we had Wirtz in the beginning going for a lot of money, so it does raise the question. I mean, of course, that was before we spent the money on Luis Diaz, but like, if we were able to spend that much money on Wirtz, what was going on at the end of summer? Let's say we were looking to compete with Liverpool at about over 100 million. Let's just call it 125. I know 150 we saw one now. Let's throw it at 125 million. If you spent 75 on Diaz, you definitely have at least a couple 30-40 million you could have pushed towards another player, and I don't know why, just maybe Uli Hoeneß didn't want to push that.
He also didn't mention, we were literally, after the failure of signing Florian Wirtz. We obviously got Luis Diaz, sure. But then after that, we were looking to sign Nick Woltemade, and we were planning to pay around 55 to 65 million. Obviously, he went to Newcastle for 85, and I'm really thankful we didn't spend 85 million on Nick Woltemade for sure. But it's the fact that we focused this transfer window with two of those players. So this could also be Erbel's fault too. Without a doubt, this could be a nice rebuttal because we're too focused on signing Nick Woltemade and signing Florian Wirtz. Obviously, Florian Wirtz was an L. Vincent Company didn't present it. Whatever, the case is closed. Next, we had Nick Woltemade. I mean, we were fighting with Stuttgart, and instead of maybe fighting with Stuttgart for like those 2 months, for 1 to 2 months, whatever it was, maybe we could have been trying to lock in Xavi Simons or other types of players. Like, why are we looking at Lookman in the end of the transfer window? Maybe we could have even gotten a loan deal for Lookman if we were actually trying to get him earlier on. I mean, he has problems with the coach and the club, so maybe they would have let him go for that.
Yeah, even just to back off that, screw the loan deal for Lookman. If we would have started way before when we first got rejected, we already know that Woltemade, Stuttgart were putting up a big fight from the start. They knew this. They did not need to go back and do 3 different deals from 50 to 55 to 60 to 70, whatever, to find out that Stuttgart weren't going to budge. We could have easily started looking at Lookman. I know, ironic, looking at Lookman, but we could have easily went for him. And we could have actually maybe screwed off the loan deal, maybe even screwed off Luis Diaz and actually gotten Lookman instead for the fee of Luis Diaz. I know that happened before, blah, blah, blah. The timeline's a little all over the place right now. But we could have gotten Lookman as our left winger, which I don't know if I would have preferred over Diaz. I think I would have. I don't know where exactly I ranked the two. But I think they're pretty much similar age, if I had to guess. Maybe Luis Diaz is a bit older. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. But I think personally I would have preferred Lookman, if I'm going to be honest, just with the recent performances in Serie A and whatnot. I think I definitely would have preferred him, and I don't know, I think even Lookman maybe has a little bit, I know potential might not be the best word because they're both a little older, but I think he has a bit more room to develop, and I don't know, I would have preferred Lookman at the end of the day.
I mean, I obviously do think that Luis Diaz, I think he would be a good signing for Bayern Munich, like a player with his quality for sure, and brings Colombian PR, brings that South American flair. It's absolutely fantastic, but the fee that we paid for him too is a big difference, and whatnot, because he's 28 years old, he's approaching their age. Sure, 20 years old is kind of like coming into the prime, yes, but 70 million for a 28-year-old kind of raise some questions. Could be a kind of rebuttal for Max Eberl as well, because obviously we know Bayern Munich don't want to be spending so much money, and we spent around that 70 to 75 million on Luis Diaz. So this is a really tough topic to discuss because it's Max Eberl's fault, Uli Hoeneß's fault, it's the board's fault, Vincent Company's fault for Wirtz. Like, it's a whole mess with that for sure. But if you were to give it to me, I wouldn't sack Max Eberl just yet. I would give it, I think we just need to buy more players. I think that's just what it is. I think, obviously our squad depth isn't the best right now, especially for now until November, at least according to reports. It's not the best right now. And 1 or 2 injuries and our season can actually be done. And I wish I could say that I'm over exaggerating, but that is the truth. That is definitely the truth. Let's say if Diaz gets injured, for an example, or even Gnabry, I would actually be upset if Gnabry gets injured. And that says a lot right now. I mean, obviously we don't want, Bayern Buddies doesn't want anyone to get injured, of course, but, it's still, I would be actually really upset because who are we going to play? Obviously Leonard Kroos good, and he's developing and whatnot, and he could be great. He's our German Yamal, but he still needs to develop, get some time, get some gaming time to fully develop, because we can't just throw him in. I mean, sure, it worked with Yamal, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work.
But I mean, also, one thing we got to talk about with the board this summer is how they were able to offload so much wages. So many players got sold, went out on loan, etc. And I mean, I think we have to, give them their applause for that. I mean, that was their main focus this summer, and I mean, they definitely did that. I know there was some talks about Coleman being sold, and there's miscommunication that if they sold Coleman, they would have got a replacement, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to get into that whole, that's just another mess. But at the end of the day, they did ship off a lot of players that I think me and Pat would agree needed to get shipped off and needed to get sold. Sure, maybe the youngsters, we shouldn't have sold some of them, but the older players like Coleman getting Paulinho out on loan, and more such as players, Muller, I know is a heartbreaking one, but had to be done. Sane leaving the club, they did a lot of great stuff with that. So that is one good point that the board, Erbel, Uli Hoeneß were able to get through, but it does beg the question once again, with selling those players and getting the wages off the book, where did all that money freaking go? I mean, I know we didn't get a crazy transfer fees for anyone, but just all collectively saving the wages and funds, getting a small transfer fees here and there for players like Tell and Coleman and whatnot. I mean, that's some type of money, and it just kind of just all went to Luis Diaz, I feel like.
Yeah, it's also the fact that Matthias Tell, also another thing I want to point out, because he mentioned about Matthias Tell. Matthias Tell didn't even make the Champions League squad for Tottenham, and we got around 40 million for him. I think that's really good business for sure. So, I mean, hey, there's obviously positives, there's obviously negatives, there's a huge rebuttal for Max Eberl staying at Bayern and whatnot. I mean, personally, I would just let him stay for like 1 more year and then try and give him more freedom essentially, because this transfer window, after the failure of signing Wirtz, Voltemata, and signing Luis Diaz, he hasn't had many room to kind of go. So I think he did probably the best he could potentially, and that's unfortunate to say.
So Erbel, Uli Hoeneß, all that company, all of them together, we had a crazy summer, but at least we don't have to think about it anymore. The craziness is officially over. Ended off with Nicholas Jackson. I don't even want to know. I don't know what to think about that. We have another video talking about it down below, our past video. But yeah, Max Eberl, do you guys think he should get the sack? Should Uli Hoeneß get let go? What do you guys think at the end of the day? Should another board member be let go? Should the whole board freaking flip over? I don't even know at this point. Maybe get some youngsters in, like Philip Lahm maybe at the Bayern board, lock that in. But seriously, what do you guys think? Should Max Eberl leave? I don't think so. I think we, like Pat said, we give him one more season, blah, blah, blah. See how he does in the next season.
In the winter time as well.
And the winter as well. Because there was some good, there was some bad. So it can't be, you know, fully judged off this transfer window, I think. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Max Eberl gets the sack or stays. Lock that in, Bayern Buddies. Bayern Buddies for president of Bayern Munich, for the Bayern board. Lock that in, guys. You guys have the power to do it. We are going to make it. And yeah, peace.